How do you lead generate for people to show up to your seminars?
So your database, obviously, right? You should be letting everybody that you know, especially even your current clients. And we use a lot of like community boards. We'll post it on a local neighborhood listservs. We'll put it on community calendars that some of our local, even politicians have on their sites.
Let's talk about the Menkiti Group. Last year, 147 transactions, almost 76 million in volume. And you do this, one of the things you do better than anybody in the world, I think, is this seminar idea. So can we break down your seminar strategy today?
Absolutely. We did seminars before. That was like a big thing. It was really like, right, for us, one of the core values is around educating. We really wanted to be able to get out into the community, educate. A lot of our work was with first-time home buyers. We saw the impact. I bought my first house at 22, and it completely transformed choices for me, right? I bought it with my best friend from college. We literally sold it 2 years later and made more money than both of us had made in our nonprofit jobs. She was a teacher and I was a social worker, and we made more money split between the two of us 2 years later. So I personally lived the power of what that could do. And so when I jumped into real estate with Bo in 2007, we knew at its core, we wanted to be able to educate as many people as we could about the power of home ownership. And we did that through seminars. And so literally from 2006, 2007 to today, our team continues to do minimum of one seminar a month.
So let's walk through this. What's the first step I need to take?
So I think the first step, we use a lot of the KW resources. I think people overthink this, right? On our Connect tools, there is a beautiful deck that you can access. Whenever people ask me, I'm like, have you pulled up the My First Home resources that we have that are available to us on Connect? Because that's going to give you the deck. It's going to give you all of the foundational tools so that you don't do the brain damage on thinking that you have to build everything out. And it's all downloadable, customizable. So step one, go there, study it, right? Step two, build your team. The idea that you have to be in front of these people, which is pretty intimidating, and know everything, no one expects that, right? So you really you want to have a great lender partner that's beside you, right? Where's Keller Mortgage? Get somebody who can join you and be there beside you to be able, and you want to prep with them, but being able to have them speak to a lot of the first-time home buyers. Their biggest concerns are not actually what you're talking about in the process. It's what's my credit score? How do I get started, right? So you want to understand and have a good partner. That partner can also help you understand the products. You really, Gary always tells us, become the local economist of choice. And in a seminar, you're becoming the local economist of choice.
How do you lead generate for people to show up to your seminars?
Yeah, I think that's another network piece, right? So I think being able to use some of your allied resources so that they know you're having this and that they can also expand it beyond your own database. So your database, obviously, right? You should be letting everybody that you know, especially even your current clients. Some of our best referrals came into the seminar because we would say, hey, I know you just bought your house and you're seeing the transformational opportunity it's creating for your family. Is there anybody you know at home, at church, in your family that you work with that you think would be a great opportunity to buy a house this year? And that's a great way to reconnect even with your immediate past clients and getting them to toss referrals to you into the seminar. And then we use a lot of community boards. We'll post it on a local neighborhood listservs. We'll put it on community calendars that some of our local, even politicians have on their sites. So a lot of people, this is information people want. We use churches. We use our local networks that are happy to, you're providing a free education resource for the community. Who's not going to want to share that?
So how do I get started? What are some tips and tricks? How do I get in the room, and how can I mask the fact that I'm brand new and I'm a little nervous?
So I think watching someone else, if you've got anybody else in your office that does it, we actually have some great videos, I believe on Connect, that are of a couple seminars. So get on there and watch it. Just get comfortable with it. You've got the deck, go through it. I think people cram way too much content in the hour. You want to leave room for questions. I actually always open by asking people to go around the room, introduce themselves, and tell me what brought them there that day. Right? So that it just sort of breaks the ice. You also get a really good sense of who you have in the room. And then you're going to actually deliver probably only about 30 minutes of content. You want to make it as interactive as possible. You're just kind of whetting the appetite of what the process is so that you can book them ideally before they leave for their consult. So we drip in there. Hey, we're going to have a sign up at the end with blocks where you can book your consult before you leave today. And people will sometimes be lining up to get to those slots. So having that, I think, is a good resource.
So step number one is get the resources, check. Step number 2, build your team, whether it's lenders, whether it's escrow title, whether it's inspectors, people who are going to be able to answer questions for people. And then you're going to tag on to their sphere of influence to generate more leads there. So let's get in the nitty gritty. Step 3 would be you hold the seminar. What's the secret there?
Yeah, I think you pick a date and you go. Like, right, you've got your market center, you have a library, you have a restaurant. Like, don't get stuck in the detail. Like, pick your location, schedule a date, and then drive to the date. I think that's where people get stuck, right? You've got all the tools, you've got your team. So now just grab a date. Like, get something. If you're planning this right now, pick a date in September, put it on the calendar, and now back yourself up and now start to get the word out and start to drive people there. Pre-registrations is key. You want to be able to capture information in real time. So say you had a date and you said, we're going to do this on September 30th. Well, what we would start to do is say somebody registers today, right? 30 days before the event, they register. We would immediately call them, thank them for registering for the seminar, and then ask if they'd be interested in meeting early. Are they ready to go now? Right. So that became, again, another lead generation funnel, because if they're like, yeah, I would actually love, we're ready to start buying now, but your seminar is not until September 30th. Now you've captured their information and you might have just booked your buyer consult for the day. So that's you do want to have a tool, whether that's Eventbrite or whatever you use, to have people register for the seminar. It's also important that they see, hey, this is a zero cost, right? I've actually started to see agents even charge just a little bit, $5, $10 donations, something that at least gives people a little skin in the game to show up. Ours are still free, but I think being able for people to see, hey, I'm registering, I'm committing, it puts on their calendar. And then there's lots of follow-up in that next 30 days. If after the call, they're like, no, we're just getting started. We're a year out. We're just going to come to the seminar. Awesome. Then we just continue to drip on them until the day of the seminar, where we send them, parking instructions, additional details, and we remind them if we're going to have food, that we're going to have a free prize. We give away, we've got some advanced copies of this fabulous new My First Home. And so we'll say, hey, we've got 5 free copies of this awesome book for the first 5 people that show up. Just something that sort of starts to incentivize people.
Do you have a target conversion? How many houses will you sell per seminar on average?
We want to be able to sell at least 1 house out of each seminar, right?
Okay.
Which, again, you think about the lag. I've had people that came to my seminar and 18 months later we sold their house. We might have sold, what I want out of the seminar is one, come list me. One person who walks in that seminar and in the next 45 days is ready to close on a house. I also, like you said, Mark, I've built 20 other relationships. So somebody might need to do whatever they're planning. We've got a lot of planners. Seminar people often tend to be our planners. They come in and they're like, I'm buying a house in 18 months, right? And this is their first step. So I think staying in touch with those people is so key. My first person that walked into my open house and thanked me for coming to my seminar because she just bought a house. And I was like, I don't think you bought a house with us. And so she had identified us as the educational resource, but we were not her agent. So we completely revamped our seminar to make sure that when they got to the process where it said hire an agent, we said hire MG Residential, hire us, right? We were really clear that we wanted to be your agent. We weren't just providing this awesome free resource to the community.
Do you use any certain technology strategy, social media? Talk to me about any technology that might be involved with your seminars.
Yeah, we keep it pretty simple. And, as soon as we could, we went back to live and in person. I think we found all sorts of creative ways in COVID to do these, right? You could record your seminars and they could just play as though you weren't there. I know a lot of teams have had success with that. For us, we did get good engagement. We just didn't find the conversion was as high when things were completely virtual, right? People were off camera. It was a little distracting. So we really brought them in. We occasionally will still do some streaming, right? But, we really tried to go back to belly to belly and really just getting people in the room and having conversations. And then we'll have a PowerPoint up on the screen. But again, we try to make this as relatable and conversational as possible so that it doesn't feel like people have been sitting at work all day. They do not want you to lecture for them for an hour about the home buyer process. They want it to be interactive. They want to be able to ask questions. And so I think that's a bigger part of it.
I love that's brilliant. And go make mistakes and learn as you go. After 15 years, you're going to learn a lot about this and you're going to convert a lot higher. So stick with it. And what a great strategy.